interesting to read this book. Everything the Darkness Eats by Eric LaRocca, because I've watched a few videos on his other books and I find it kind of disturbing, but like interesting. But like, I watched in a video, I didn't read the book, so like I want to see if I'll like the book or like one of his books or not. And this was the one my library had. This is just my opinion and my experience reading the book. So he's reading vlog type thing. Don't base I mean, you can base your opinions based on your preferences, but like, don't take my opinions as facts. As far as literature goes, I've read The Troop, and I thought it was okay. I feel like it would have been better without the addition of Shelley. I thought he was kind of a shit character, kind of unnecessary, but that's just my opinion. I would have been okay with it if it didn't have this edgy character that does a bunch of things that are edgy and like literally just exist for that purpose. I just don't really like characters like that, so that's just my opinion. And it's a very common horror trope, so I just gotta say, because it's funny to me. So specifically, I forgot what the other one was called, but specifically in my head, I've been thinking of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. I think that's what it's called. It's a long title, but it's something like that. Tapeworms are fucking weird, and like, but then I just thought about how in Total Drama, in the reboot, there's a part where they eat a tapeworm, and I was just thinking about that. And then I was thinking about how Julia and MK, like, I was just like, oh my god, I hate my fucking life. I'm gonna read this book, say my experiences on it, try and be coherent, and like a real YouTuber with what I did. Like, you do not have to buy a book. It's a lot less of like an investment if like you think you might not like a book. I'll be reading this. Okay, oh my gosh, I'm so off topic that I literally forgot. I gotta say, I don't really know what happened. Like, I don't know what this book is about. I was just like, I saw my library had one of his books, and I was like, I want to try it out. So I don't know what this is about. The only thing I know is that on Goodreads, it has like a 2.7 rating, which is always good news, but at the same time, like, I'm gonna be honest, I hate If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and that book has like a 4-star, and I think that book is atrocious, but that's just my opinion. Like, if you like that book, it's fine. That's just my opinion. I thought it was bad, and like, I don't know, like, I think books are very personal. Like, I think media is very personal. I'm reading this for myself instead of watching a YouTube video on it. I want my opinion. I want my experience. Okay, let's read the fucking book instead of filling it with filler. Alright, so I've read like 20 pages. Wow. It's about Ghost. Yes, his name is Ghost. Bisexual man, 30s. And his wife has recently died. He feels haunted by like this voice inside of his head, which may or may not be a spirit, because he kind of like comforts this girl that her balloon breaks, and so like pretends that like his cane that he uses is like magic stick, and then she wishes like that her appointment will come sooner, and it does. So like there's an implication there that maybe there is a spirit living within him, and his name is Ghost because his mother saw a ghost when she was in the hospital having him. So that's why his name is Ghost. A few days ago, I was looking at like name ideas for OCs on Pinterest, and it kind of reminded me of that because I made an OC named Autopsy as a joke because that was one of the names on there. Nothing wrong with that, because I think fiction should be a place to explore interesting things that are different. Ghost basically exchanged numbers with the girl's mother. Ghost is kind of grappling with, like, what is going to happen with this dynamic? What does this person want with this dynamic? Because I'm sad and grieving and I don't want to move on yet. Yeah, there's also like an intro part that I didn't really get. It's like literally just this dude like exploding people with his mind. Yeah, like a bunch of heads exploded. That was fun. Kind of corny. Yeah, I forgot. I pronounced Wraith. Wrath? I don't know. Wraith. Everything the Darkness Eats, the title, I think applies to this character, which maybe the spirit feeds, is what the text is implying, that it maybe feeds on his grief. So maybe he's magical because he's so depressed and sad and grieving. This should make me giggle. Not because she did that. Okay, wait. Okay, so basically she was like, there's like a curfew or something because people are like missing. And like, okay, so this is like another line, I'm guessing. Like, maybe this is one of those stories that flip back and forth. Don't know. Anyway, okay, so it's basically talking about like this woman, Miss Childers, and she has a daughter. Calls her every night at 8. And she doesn't like calling. Or because she doesn't like the man that her daughter's dating. And then because she's not gonna be grandbaby. I'm into this book, but it's also really funny. Oh, ankles. Grandma after the ankles. And then it sounds like she's like into Slenderman. There's just some dude in like a car. Me of how I guess we all know that in the Victorian era they had tablecloths made. Owners. Totally a fact. So basically this is the guy who exploded a bunch of people. Hart Crowley. Another dude with a weird name. Me when I'm named Hart. Truly captivated this woman's heart. Ah ha ha ha. Bro's gotta keep that darkness fed. Not funny, but like, it's so blunt. Everything in this movie is so blunt, and I'm just so I think it's because I read too much lit fic. Last book I read was lit fic, so I'm used to people just saying stuff and I have to analyze it, but like, this is so literal. Like, this Crowley dude, maybe gay, and this woman is praying for him. My theory is that this woman might be related to Gemma, the mother. Me when I'm in my 50s and I act like YN. Like, this guy who is audition ground to be possibly into me. Not because he's gay, but because I'm a Chapter 2. I yapped a lot. Like, on every page, so it's like pointless to this book, but like, okay, so basically, Mr. Crowley is like, I think he's like older. He's like, come on, my little tips for Dora. And I think they're going to like a graveyard or something. And he was like, sometimes owning something doesn't mean it's yours. This guy would hate NFTs. What an icon. I probably won't say anything of literary value until I finish the book. So, deal with my stupid yappings. Or just skip to the end. I'm getting facts wrong. I think he's a salesman, Mr. Crowley. And, okay, I'm obsessed with this because it's like one of my favorite concepts. Concept of like, it's very devastating. Concept of losing someone and then not being able to remember what they look like after a while. And that comes up in this book. And I like that. It's very interesting, very disturbing. I think memory as in of itself is a horror because it's not reliable. It's not inherently reliable, so. Oh, wait. Crowley might be the darkness feeding off of her grief. I'm so slow. That's why she can't, maybe that's why she can't remember. 6, 7. After wondering for a bit what, era this like what year this book takes place in. It's modern time because someone mentions a Zoom call, and I got that confused because of the newspaper mention, and I forgot newspapers are in black and white. Alright, so okay, I'm done filming. So, oh shit. Okay, my bad. So I have like 80 pages of stuff I have to explain now. Okay, so basically we got introduced to these new characters, two men who are, I believe they're married. Yeah, they're married. Brett and Malik. Brett wants to like live like a normal life with him, but Malik has like a lot of like internalized homophobia that is also being pushed on him by members of the community because it's a religious community. Malik is also exploring the disappearances, so I guess that's also the connection. But I still can't figure out what the other stuff means, because basically, Brett and Malik get hate crimed twice. First via brick going through their house, and then the second time, like their whole house gets fucked up, and like Brett gets nearly beaten to death. Yeah, that was kind of wild to read, especially when we get into the next plot. Like, the other plot of this book. I'm reading my notes. Okay, so we got Gemma. By the way, that was Mr. Childers. Okay, so that woman was not related to Gemma. Just unrelated. Okay, but we got Gemma, and she gets taken by Mr. Crowley into his weird, stinky basement, and it ends up like getting stuck there. Because basically he has like this thing there, and he's claiming that basically God, because he's summoning God, and now he's stuck, and he's trying to find someone who doesn't believe enough, that won't fall under the spell of trying to just like pray to him. There's also like this implication after like calling the like police and getting the help and stuff like that. Malik doesn't feel anything about what happened, which could imply that his emotions are also being eaten by something. Not really sure if like like his boss, like I believe he works for the police, and I can't tell if his boss is supposed to be like a red herring or genuinely like in on this somehow. Okay, now let's get to the other plot. Crowley's been stalking Ghost and basically just like picks him up because, okay, oh my gosh. Ghost is broke, is struggling to keep up with things. He decides to take this because a taxi would be costly. He has like no money, he wouldn't be able to pay for it. So he just goes in this random guy's house or car. He has introduced his heart to Ghost, and like I feel like the text would have benefited from not revealing that it's Mr. Crowley. Like, because the instant it's like, my name's Hart, it instantly starts calling him Mr. Crowley. And like, I just didn't really like that. I think it should have just said Hart. Even if we know who that is, I feel like it kind of diminishes it a little bit. Crowley takes, or Hart, whatever, takes Ghost to his house, to his stinky basement, and is like, explains all this stuff about how like he needs someone to get he needs someone for his ritual to get back to heaven. But everyone just is too devout. But he isn't, because he's fucking miserable. And I must say also, it's like I felt bad because there's some homoeroticism between Hart and Ghost. Very intimate, that like Crowley doesn't really introduce himself as Hart, and like also the fact that Ghost and Hart have weird names, and like Hart is like, you're the only person who can do this. Like, I'm picking at straws, but like I don't know, there is just something about their dynamic and the way it's written that is like, have me a little food hunching out. But at the same time, it made me feel bad because the other, like the actual gay characters in this book are treated like that. Don't know what's gonna happen there. I'm very curious. There's about 90 pages in the book. So more than halfway. It's like 2 parts of the book. I don't know how many parts there is. And I also gotta say, so I'm not spreading misinformation, is that I believe this is actually not a splatterpunk book. And it's not a novella either. It's actually one of Lorica's regular books, and it's a genre horror book. I'm not reading anything like too bad. I'm just reading something that's kind of goofy. Wait, I forgot. Crowley can like control people. He like has his power over people. Like Gemma, like going there, like gets under that control, and there's this part where it's like there's like a shadow that goes over her eyes, and I just couldn't stop thinking about Gacha Life characters. Oh yeah, I forgot. Also, Piper, Gemma's daughter, is blind, and I did not catch that. I don't even know if it was mentioned in like the first 20 pages. It might have been, and I like glossed over it, but I do not think that was mentioned. And then every character is like, she's blind, and I'm like, when was this said? I didn't know this. Am I stupid? Not knowing if Crowley's being genuine, and also whatever this thing is in his basement is eating people's emotions. I do not know. Like, I feel like he might be lying. Hot take. Like, this book is genuinely like, I don't know what's happening. Like, it doesn't really have any build up. It's just stuff happens in it. Really hard to tell what's gonna happen next. Not what I was expecting. So maybe I'm the idiot. There's something, and I'm not articulate enough to explain what is going on in this book. Okay, so another thing with Ghost and Heart is like both of their connections to the darkness. Okay, I'm gonna read more of the book because I actually have a little bit of a time crunch. Dare I say, things have gotten worse since we last spoke. I have less than 20 pages left in the book, but I'm gonna do a little update. Forgot to mention, so before coming to this religious community, Malik was raised Muslim, which also adds to his internalized feelings. And then that brought up the question in my head as to why these characters moved here, because to mention that they both went to college together, why'd they go and move to this place? Yeah, this is like where the story is starting to kind of fall apart. Less in like a nitpicky way, more like this is some not so great writing in my opinion. People in this neighborhood hired these people from another town to commit these hate crimes. I like asked the person like for like the name of this person because he wants to get revenge, which is also inconsistent because, well, it's either inconsistent or it proves that he was getting his emotions taken away at some point. Malik is a very confusing, like actually all these characters are confusing. A few days after, Malik starts having these like intrusive thoughts about bringing harm upon the people who hurt his husband, with good reason because he's like severely injured. Like, the names of the people who did this. He goes kind of ill-equipped to a bar where these people are and tries to like get him, but then obviously it's like he gets stabbed and like beaten up and taken. One thing that really bothers me is Ghost's connection to Gemma, because they only interacted one time, and like Ghost cares about her so much, like considers her a loved one. This is genuinely in the text, and they only interacted one time. But Ghost finds the daughter at a grocery store, brings her to Gemma to see if that'll take her out of the trance, and it doesn't. Ghost also has like this desire to make everyone better, which I don't know, it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, I guess it's because he thinks that he can also save his wife. Like, my theory was like maybe his distaste for God like made him wanted to free these people from worshipping him, but then also it's like, why do you want to free the people who are worshipping him? I don't know. And then there's like a little parallel between Malik and Ghost, where they both struggle with sleeping. So I think that's also trying to imply that Malik has this darkness inside of him now. And of course, like, I kind of just saw this coming. The moment we got to, like, you know, Malik's gonna get tortured, like, and of course he gets the slur etched in him. This is like a pretty typical horror trope, I feel like. A very overdone horror trope that it's really bad. It's not expressed in great detail, but it does go on for like quite a bit, which kind of does add up in a book this short that doesn't really harp on details. But basically, predictably, Malik gets assaulted by all these men. Then it's like, it seems like Malik gets stabbed to death, but he doesn't. And like, okay, so the reasoning for this guy beating up his husband and trying to kill him is because he was exploited as a child. And then Malik feels bad for him, like, I don't know. He pretends to be dead, and then he gets like thrown into a ravine and peed on, and so then he gets out. And he ends up at Crowley's house, because the characters are finally meeting, the plots are finally connecting, the stars are aligning, the darkness is coming. And then in the Crowley and Ghost plot, Crowley's talking about how he has some like damages on his body that cannot be fixed because they're from an affair his husband had, and he like got this sickness from him, and he can't be rid of it. It brings up the theme that has also come up a few times in this book of creation and abandonment, creating something and then abandoning it. The last thing I read was Ghost and Crowley are trying to finish the ritual, because Ghost needs to finally like fully submit himself. This book kind of just reminds me of like Terrifier, so I can see why people like it. Like, I just don't think that the torture and like stuff like that is really like justified or warranted. I don't see a payoff to it. Like, it just happens, and like without meaning, it's just queer tragedy. But like, I already kind of saw that coming. It's a pretty common horror trope to use essay. That doesn't mean I like it personally. That doesn't mean I have to be okay with it, and I'm not. I brought this upon myself to read this shit book, and I'm gonna see it through because there's less than 20 pages left, and I've already gone this far, and it's not a hard read by any means. Like, the difficult part about reading it is how some stuff just really doesn't make any sense. I just want this book to be over, and I'm just questioning how any of this is gonna be resolved in 20 pages. Of course, Crowley was lying. Tries to kill Ghost, but darkness within Ghost kills him instead and eats all his power, and he shrivels up into a worm and disintegrates. The little orb thing gives a wish, and instead of using it to bring back his dead wife, he brings Malik back to life and gets rid of all of his traumatic memories from what has happened in this book. Ghost made sense in a way because he overcame his grief by accepting the loss that happened to him and moving on, which is a good message. However, Malik and Brett both forget the events of the story and do not actually authentically move on. They're just literally like lobotomized. Memories are just taken away from them, and then they're just happy because they didn't have any suffering happen to them. And they finally fucking move. Like, wow, it really took losing your trauma to move to another state that isn't like another town that isn't shit. I just felt like the two endings were very contradictory to each other, because on one hand, I think, although I don't think it's entirely deserved, because I don't think Gemma and Ghost interacted nearly enough for their dynamic to even make sense, but like, at the very least, Ghost kind of found his own place in like his own family because they all like started hanging out.
We have a little bit of found family. But then we have Brett and Malik. Like, don't move on, don't heal. It's just taken away from them. It's like the opposite message. Like, I can't tell if that's supposed to be like the horror aspect. And then it makes like the torture that happened in the book feel even more unjustified. And it's only us as the readers that know it happened. It's just a little strange. Like, I know it's a horror book, but I'm just trying to figure out what the intention behind the ending is. Like, am I supposed to be sad, disturbed, happy for them? I'm going to change the community that they live in, and this isn't going to change other places where the same thing could happen again. That the horror of it is like they're moving and there's the implication there that the same stuff could happen to them again. I just wasn't expecting that ending for them. Okay, let's wrap it up. Like, we don't need another 100 pages of these characters actually trying to work through their problems and their internalized homophobia and properly coming to the conclusion that they should probably move to somewhere that's safer for them. No, let's just like get rid of all of their trauma. Like, you could have just had the wish that he gets healed. Like, there was no reason to get rid of all of his pain. Like, I guess it's because Ghost has suffered so much himself and he doesn't want other people to suffer, which is a character trait of his, but it is also a flaw. So I guess maybe that's the reason. Illusion. Solid 1 or 2 out of 10 out of 5. Solid 1 or 2, maybe a 1.5 out of 5.